Picture this, a small child sitting on a robot's lap. Red velvet suit gleaming under gymnasium lights. Metal hand offering a wrapped gift. Parents filming on phones, some smiling, some with expressions you can't quite read. What happens when Father Christmas isn't human anymore? In a small Tennessee town last December, one elementary school made a choice that divided parents, delighted children, and forced an entire community to ask a question nobody wanted to answer. What makes a tradition real? The technology? The magic? Or something else entirely? This story will challenge everything you think about technology, childhood, and what we're willing to sacrifice for convenience. Hit that like button if you're ready to question what you believe. Because what happened at Pinewood Elementary will stay with you long after this video ends. 3 weeks before Christmas, the Pinewood Elementary PTA meeting was falling apart. The small Tennessee town had been hit hard over the past year. Layoffs at the manufacturing plant. Families stretched thin across multiple jobs. Parents missing school events because they were working third shifts just to keep the lights on. And now this problem. No one could volunteer to play Santa for the annual Christmas gift day. Mr. Henderson, who'd worn the red suit for 15 years straight, had moved 2 states away for work. The backup Santa, Marcus's dad, was driving long-haul trucks and wouldn't be home until New Year's. 3 other parents had apologetically declined. Too busy. Too stressed. Too exhausted. Principal Hayes looked around the room at faces that reflected her own weariness. We can't cancel this. For some of these kids, this is the only Christmas event they'll have. Their families can't afford much else. Someone suggested just handing out gifts without the Santa visit. The room went quiet. It felt wrong, like admitting defeat. That's when Mr. Darius Cole spoke up. At 28, Darius was the youngest teacher at Pinewood, brought in last year to pilot the district's new tech integration program. He was also one of only 3 black teachers in a school that was slowly, finally, starting to reflect the changing demographics of the town. What if, he said carefully, we used Chip? Confused faces turned toward him. Chip. The classroom helper interactive partner. The educational robot the district gave us. Mrs. Chun, a veteran second-grade teacher with 30 years under her belt, looked at him like he'd suggested burning down the building. You want a robot to play Santa Claus? Darius pressed on, even as doubt flickered in his own chest. Chip already knows the kids. It's been in classrooms all semester. The AI can personalize interactions, reference their interests, acknowledge their progress. We could make each child feel seen. Special. It's a machine, Darius. It's a tool. And right now, it's the tool we have. The silence that followed felt heavy. Principal Hayes looked around the room, reading the desperation in every face. All in favor? Hands rose slowly, reluctantly. Not because they thought it was a good idea, but because they were out of options. Mrs. Chun didn't raise her hand. She just stared at Darius, and her eyes said everything her mouth didn't. This is wrong. And you know it. But desperate times required desperate measures. They took the vote. Chip would be Santa. Nobody knew yet how complicated that simple decision would become. The irony became clear immediately. Making an AI Santa required more human effort than finding a volunteer ever would have. Over the next 3 weeks, Pinewood's teachers poured themselves into the project. The art teacher stayed late 3 nights, sewing a custom red suit that would fit Chip's boxy frame. The maintenance staff built a sleigh, really just a decorated wheelchair base that Chip could roll on. The music teacher programmed a playlist of carols to play softly from Chip's speakers. And Darius? Darius lived in the school's computer lab, programming something that felt impossible: empathy. He fed Chip everything. Each child's name, reading level, math progress, behavioral notes. He uploaded survey responses about interests and hobbies. He cross-referenced gift preferences that parents had secretly submitted. He taught the AI to recognize struggle and celebrate improvement, to be gentle with the shy kids and playful with the bold ones. At night, his apartment felt emptier than usual. He'd scroll through forums where other teachers debated AI and education. The comments split cleanly down the middle. Innovation versus invasion, progress versus loss. His mother called one evening. How's the robot Santa coming? It's not a robot Santa, Mom. It's an educational assistant dressed as Santa.
Ahmed.
And how do you feel about that distinction? Darius didn't answer right away. I feel like we're trying really hard to fake something that used to be real. Or, his mother said gently, you're trying to make sure kids don't go without. There's no shame in that, baby. But shame wasn't quite what Darius felt. It was something more complicated. Mrs. Chun felt it too. She watched from the doorway one afternoon as Darius ran tests with Chip, checking voice warmth, movement patterns, response times. We're trying so hard to fake something that used to be real, she said, echoing Darius's own words. He looked up, defensive. We're not faking anything. We're adapting. The kids will feel seen. Isn't that what matters? Will they feel loved, though? Mrs. Chun asked quietly. Can code do that? The question sat between them like a third presence. I don't know, Darius admitted. But I know they'll feel something. And isn't something better than nothing? Mrs. Chun didn't answer. She just walked away, leaving Darius alone with Chip and his doubts. The night before the event, Darius ran final diagnostics. Chip's systems hummed quietly in the empty lab. I am ready to bring joy to the children, Chip announced in its warm but distinctly mechanical voice. Darius stared at the robot, at the red suit, the blinking lights, the gentle glow of its optical sensors. I really hope so, he whispered. Have you ever had to choose between tradition and practicality? Between what feels right and what actually works? Drop a comment below. Because this community was about to learn something none of them expected, including me. The morning of December 20th, Pinewood Elementary's gymnasium transformed. Paper snowflakes hung from the ceiling. Tinsel wrapped around basketball hoops. A small artificial tree stood in the corner, covered in student-made ornaments. Children sat cross-legged on the polished floor, buzzing with an energy that felt electric. Parents lined the walls, phones raised, ready to capture the moment. Then Chip rolled in. The robot moved slowly on its decorated base, lights blinking in a rhythm that almost felt like breathing. The oversized red suit fit surprisingly well. A white beard hung from its front panel. Its optical sensors glowed with a warm amber light. Ho ho ho! Chip's voice boomed across the gym. Merry Christmas, Pinewood Elementary. The reaction was instant and divided. Some kids giggled. Some leaned back nervously. Some stared with eyes wide as moons. Marcus Thompson, Chip called out. 6-year-old Marcus, missing his 2 front teeth, stood up slowly. His mother nudged him forward. He walked toward the robot like he was approaching something from a dream, fascinating and slightly unreal. Marcus. Chip's voice dropped to something gentler. I heard you've been working so hard on your addition tables. Mrs. Hayes told me you got all 20 problems correct last week. Marcus's face lit up like someone had plugged him into an outlet. You know about that? Of course. And because you worked so hard, here's something special. Chip extended a wrapped package. Inside, the math puzzle book Marcus had mentioned wanting during a classroom survey. Marcus took it, beaming, and ran back to his mother. She was filming, smiling, but Darius noticed her hand shaking slightly. Sophia Martinez. Sophia, who loved butterflies with an intensity that bordered on obsession, approached cautiously. Sophia, your science project on monarch migration was extraordinary. I learned so much from your presentation. Chip handed her a butterfly habitat kit. Sophia gasped, clutched it to her chest, and whispered, "Thank you," to the robot like it was a secret. One by one, children were called. Each interaction was personalized. Each gift carefully chosen. Chip referenced specific moments, James's improvement in reading, Emma's kindness to a new student, David's creativity in art class. The children lit up. Every single one. Parents murmured to each other. Some impressed. Some unnerved. All of them recording, as if documentation would help them understand what they were witnessing. Mrs. Chin stood in the back, arms crossed, watching. Her face was difficult to read, but Darius knew what she was thinking. This is working. And that's exactly the problem. The technology was succeeding. The kids were happy. The data-driven personalization was more accurate than any human Santa could have managed. But something felt off. Like a song played in the right key, but the wrong tempo. And then Amara stepped forward. Amara Johnson was 7 years old and saw everything. The kind of kid who watched adults carefully, who asked questions that made teachers pause, who could sense when something was wrong even if she couldn't name it. She walked toward Chip slowly, studying its movements, the mechanical whir of its joints, the slight delay between speech and gesture. Amara, Chip's voice was warm. You love stories about space and astronauts. You told your class you want to visit Mars someday. Amara nodded, but didn't smile. Here's something special for a future astronaut. Chip extended a wrapped package. Inside would be a book about Mae Jemison and a model rocket kit. Amara took it, held it, looked up at the robot with eyes that seemed too old for her face. Are you really Santa? She asked. The gymnasium went silent. Parents stopped filming. Teachers froze. Even the younger children seemed to sense that something important was happening. Chip's AI processed the question, searching through its programming for the appropriate response. I bring joy and gifts to children who... That's not what I ask. Amara's voice was quiet but firm. Pause. 3 full seconds of mechanical thinking. I am here to make your Christmas special, Amara. But you're a robot. Not accusing. Just stating fact. You don't know what Christmas feels like. You don't know what it's like to miss someone, or to be happy they're home, or to burn cookies and laugh about it with your mom. Another pause. Longer this time. Chip's programming had no script for radical honesty with a 7-year-old. You're right, Amara. I don't. The admission shocked everyone. Parents gasped. Teachers exchanged glances. Darius felt his stomach drop. So, why are you here? Amara asked. Before Chip could formulate a response, Mrs. Chen moved. She walked slowly from the back of the gym, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Every eye followed her. She knelt beside Amara, and when she spoke, her voice carried across the room. Because sometimes, honey, we need help. And this robot? It's not trying to be Santa. It's trying to help us be Santa. To remember what you love, to celebrate your wins, to show you that you matter. She looked at Chip, then at Darius across the room, then back at Amara. But you're right about something important. It can't feel. It can't love. Only we can do that. Mrs. Chen pulled Amara into a hug, spontaneous, warm, human in a way that no algorithm could replicate. And that's why we're all here, she continued, voice thick with emotion. Not the robot. Us. The teachers who stay late to learn your favorite books. The parents who work 2 jobs but still show up for every concert. The community that refuses to let you go without, even when times are hard. She stood, still holding Amara's hand, and looked around at the other children. Chip helped us organize this. But the gifts? Your parents bought those. The decorations? Your teachers made them. The reason we know what you love? Because we pay attention. We choose to see you. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. More honest. So, who else wants to tell me what made them happy this year? Mrs. Chen asked. Hands shot up. Not to a robot, but to her. To each other. To the community that had always been there, just hidden beneath the convenience of technology. What happened next wasn't planned. Wasn't scripted. Couldn't have been programmed. The children started sharing small victories, funny moments, things they were proud of. Parents put down their phones and stepped forward, kneeling beside their kids, adding their own memories. Teachers circulated, asking questions, listening deeply, celebrating out loud. The event transformed in real time. Less about gifts, more about connection. Chip sat to the side, still in its red suit, lights blinking peacefully. But now it was a helper, not the centerpiece. A tool that had served its purpose by revealing what actually mattered. Darius stood near the gym entrance, emotions tangled in his chest. Pride that his idea had worked, relief that the kids were happy, but also something like grief for what they'd almost lost by trying to automate care. Mrs. Chen approached during a quiet moment. Her face was softer now. I'm sorry. Darius said before she could speak. You were right. We almost made this about efficiency instead of... Stop. Mrs. Chen's voice was gentle but firm. You weren't wrong. We needed help. We were drowning. You found a solution when the rest of us had given up. She looked back at the children, at the parents, at the organic chaos of human connection. But Amara reminded us of something crucial. Solutions aren't the same as connection. Technology can help us remember what matters, but it can't do the mattering for us. That's our job. It's always been our job. Darius nodded, throat tight. The question isn't whether we should use tools like Chip, Mrs. Chen continued. It's whether we remember what the tools are for. They're supposed to help us be more human, not replace the human part entirely. Across the gym, Amara was showing her space book to 3 other kids, explaining why Mars was more interesting than the moon. Her earlier skepticism had transformed into something else, not rejection of technology, but clarity about its place. The final image of that morning stayed with Darius for months. Children playing together, parents talking and laughing, teachers fully present and engaged. And Chip in the background, Christmas lights reflecting off its metallic surface, useful but not central, helping but not replacing. Not magic. Not tradition. Something new that honored both. So here's what I want to know. When technology helps us be better humans, is that innovation or is it a warning? When AI can personalize care, what happens to the choice to pay attention ourselves? Comment below. And if this story made you think differently about AI in our lives, share it with someone who needs to see it. Spring semester arrived at Pinewood Elementary with budding trees and longer days. Chip was back in classrooms, doing what it did best, teaching multiplication tables, reading stories with perfect pronunciation, tracking student progress with algorithmic precision. But something had shifted. Teachers were more intentional now about balancing technology with presence. They used Chip for what it excelled at: data analysis, pattern recognition, personalized pacing. But they showed up themselves for what mattered: comfort during hard days, celebration of breakthroughs, difficult conversations about fairness and feelings. One afternoon in Darius's tech class, Amara was programming a simple robot to navigate a maze. She looked up suddenly. Mr. Cole, do you think robots will replace teachers someday? Darius stopped, considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. I think robots will get really good at helping. At organizing information, tracking progress, even personalizing lessons. But teaching? Really teaching? That requires something robots don't have.
What?
The choice to care. Robots are programmed to respond. They'll always do what they're told, follow their code, execute their function. But humans? He smiled. Humans choose to show up, even when it's hard. Even when we're tired. Even when it would be easier not to. That choice, that's what makes us human. And you can't program that. Amara nodded thoughtfully, then returned to her coding. Darius watched her work, thinking about Christmas, about Mrs. Chen's words, about the thin line between tools that help us be human and tools that replace the human part entirely. Through the classroom window, he could see the playground. Kids learning, playing, arguing, making up, being messy and complicated and beautifully, irreplaceably human. Chip sat in the corner, running diagnostic checks, ready to help when called upon. Not a threat. Not a replacement. Just a tool that had taught an entire community something they'd almost forgotten. Technology can amplify our humanity, but it can't create it. That part is still up to us. And always will be. So, what really happened at Pinewood Elementary that Christmas? A community learned that technology can help us be kind, but it can't make the choice to show up for each other. That efficiency isn't the same as magic. That data-driven personalization is powerful, but it's not the same as choosing to pay attention because someone matters to you. They learned that sometimes the most important question isn't, can we do this? It's, should we? And at what cost? This is what Living While Black and Beyond is about. Stories that force us to question our assumptions, to feel deeply, to examine how we're building the future, and whether that future honors what makes us human. Mr. Darius Cole brought innovation to Pinewood. Mrs. Chun brought wisdom. Amara brought truth. Together, they found something better than either tradition or technology alone. They found balance. If this story made you think, hit that subscribe button. Tell me in the comments, where do you draw the line between helpful technology and replacing human connection? What traditions are you willing to adapt, and which ones are sacred? What would you have done in their situation? Because here's the reality. The future is coming whether we're ready or not. AI is entering our schools, our hospitals, our homes. The question isn't whether that will happen. It's whether we'll let it make us more human or less. Whether we'll use it as a tool to amplify our care or as an excuse to outsource the hard work of actually showing up for each other. Pinewood Elementary chose to use technology without losing themselves. They almost got it wrong. But a 7-year-old girl asked the right question at the right time, and a community remembered what mattered. Maybe that's the real lesson. Maybe the magic isn't in the tradition or the technology. Maybe it's in the courage to stop, question, and choose our humanity over our convenience. See you in the next story.